in the building, working hard, really interesting stuff. You know, I brought my personal surgeon with me. A lot of you met him, Ronnie. He was really impressed. He's like, man, I cannot believe what these guys are building. In fact, he talked to, I think, 4 or 5 groups, absolutely impressed. So thanks for impressing my good friend. Good. So we're going to move right to the pitches. And I want to recognize the judges. Could the judges stand up, and we're going to give them a hand. Thank you. And I'm going to have them do like a 10-second self-introduction.
Hi everybody, my name is Gina Cassess. I got the pleasure of meeting some of you yesterday. I work at Pfizer on the mobile team. I'm responsible for user experience for our internal and external facing apps. And I also run our corporate hackathon, so it's been great to be a part of this, and I'm glad to see what you've been working.
Hi, my name is Cody Cowan. I am at a small venture firm, seed stage. So if any of the teams are interested in turning this into a full company, definitely come talk to me. And in another life, or not another life, but not too long ago, product manager at a startup. So also, if any advice on that, happy to help as well.
My name is Mike Amark, PhD in molecular biology, decades and decades ago. Started a couple of small companies and then moved to work with large companies and became an entrepreneur in bringing biotech into large companies. About 30 years in the business, and now semi-retired.
Semi-retired.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Chris Brown, a lawyer originally and an angel investor, and I think some of you at least met one of the companies I seed funded, AI Cure, out of a meeting yesterday. But I think he was very excited. He told me I had a lot of fun today, so really looking forward to doing this. Thank you.
So let's start with our first pitch, which would be 1 minute narrative. The pitch order is right here. And 1 minute narrative, come and pitch. All right. Oh, by the way, we'll cut you off right at time. So Emily's timekeeper. So
I will start clapping when you're done.
Won't be a problem.
Okay.
Hi everybody, thanks for being here. We're Get Narrative. Myself, Tara, Anton, and Paul are going to be here right now. So Tara's going to handle the slides. And I'm going to walk you through our pitch. So problems. There's a ton of new medical discoveries coming out every day, and it's very hard for the average consumer to kind of filter out the noise and get straight to the signal. You know, what is going to be important to them and what really matters. So often the articles that come out about health-related topics are long, they're cumbersome, they're full of jargon, and it's just difficult for your average consumer to parse the information and find out what really matters to them. So BitNarrative is an application that allows passionate communities to find relevant information and share it with each other. So what it does, for the health conscious, it's going to allow you to quickly find the most important points of an article at any time. And for the expert, it's going to allow you to guide the discussion on a topic that you know a lot about. And for the community, it's going to just enrich it as a whole, as there can be more communication and more sharing across topics that are new and different and really matter to people. So we're going to walk through a demo. So the average user flow will be you'll sign in, find yourself at a page of high-level topics, health will be our use case today. You'll go in and you'll find user-created communities, and also runners. And once you click on runners, you'll find all the articles that are currently being shared across the network that are related to runners. So right now we have like tendinitis, tendon pain, running form, and how that all affects you. The next step will be to click into an article that's relevant to you right now, and you'll find a sparse document that shows the entire article pulled directly from the source and broken up into little atomized bits. And you'll be able to select a piece and highlight it. by highlighting it, you'll contribute to what the experts across the world are highlighting, and we'll develop out a heat map that will show you what's popular and what's important about this article. And in addition, you'll be able to comment on those highlights. And this is how you'll share information across the network. So the work that we got done over at Hackathon was building out the implementation itself and pulling in all this data from articles. You can also currently share something directly to our service, which will parse out the article and put it in a form that's readable by our application. So that's our note. And to finish up, our long-term vision is to help experts and your average user both understand and communicate about information that's important to them, and help publishers of these articles better understand how people are reacting to their content, both from an expert point of view and from your average user point of view. And we hope to eventually harness the data that's generated out of this application to help publishers do this, and also help content authors kind of better work with their content after it's been released. And that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, there are dozens of search engines that allow you to track down different articles in different categories, deliver them to your mailbox every morning, etc. What's the one thing that you do or provide that isn't provided by any of those other services?
Right. So there's a ton of way to get articles, but there's not a community really that's sourcing them for you. And by fostering a really kind of passionate community, we hope to develop kind of a dialogue around the articles that provide a lot more value than just finding them.
How are you, within the app, how are you distinguishing generic user from an expert?
So when the app gets released, what we'll do is we will have curators that we pick internally to go out and kind of curate the articles, and we'll really seed it strongly that way. And the idea is that through the app's functionality itself, it will kind of bring out the experts, because they'll be the people who are interested in going through. And so that's the intent right now.
So commenters are clear.
Exactly.
Do you anticipate that a user-generated content versus authors and experts? In other words, if you're looking on comments,
Right.
people to look at their articles.
That's not like the space of the
Let me, one last question. So there's a set of scientific articles that have all gone through a review process. There are other articles that just get published, almost self-published. We can distinguish between those two groups because it's a different level of scientific rigor involved in former.
Yeah,
as opposed to.
I think that's definitely really important. I think we're gonna implement a tagging system that will help identify those. But just to clarify, if there's any confusion along this, which is, so we're not gonna be like really bringing in content that's like journals, because we're not trying to get people like that level. We're thinking about kind of like the men's health or women's fitness or like these kind of publications that are really geared towards the consumer. Not something that's too scientific.
Right. We'll get one final question. What is your business model? Advertising,
So-
model for premium content, what are your thoughts?
Either one of those. The idea will be to sell the data and the functionality back to publishers eventually. Once we've developed out the application and shown that users actually like it and engage with it, they find it useful. The hope is that number one, the data that's provided out of it will give more context along the line of what Sharpspace does or online publications, and also that we may eventually this is an API, which is will get implemented on publishers' sites so that in their content section or in their article section, they can interact with content. So the precedent that's been set so far by companies like Pocket and other mobile applications that do news aggregation is that it's okay to pull in their content and if you want to cite back to the source, feel free to do it. If this was done on desktop, which we may eventually release the desktop client, it'd be more difficult just to pull in their data. You probably have to get their web pages in order to ensure that they still get all their access and stuff like that. But on mobile, it's not really an issue.
You can stay just up to the curb.
You can take it from straight.
Try it there and then we'll connect it. And do you just want to stay here to pass them on?
You can't really stay here.
Does it have these?
Next onwards, the Q&A is going on, the next two sessions. So it's connected to the equipment.
Right, so maybe we need like Snorlash to be up there. Right?
Yeah, so as announced, like this team is on the deck. Notice on the deck, so keep getting. Okay.
Yeah, we kind of went over that already, but
Okay.
we'll remind every team as we get them.
So we're Penny. We're Penny, and we're providing perfectly priced pickup packages, which sounds like a mouthful, but is a lot simpler than it sounds. So there are approximately 365 billion spent by Americans per year on pharmaceuticals, and it's more per capita than the rest of the world. We have approximately 75,000 pharmacies in the US, but there's really no way for patients or physicians to choose pharmacy by anything other than location and whether or not they have the medication the patient needs. And Levin, who has spent a lot of time in the medical field, can talk a bit about that.
Nationally, if you prescribe medications, it goes through essentially one national network, right? And when you're ordering something that we need marked for your patient, you're going to send it home. The only real option you get is location. So every day in this country, the physicians spend a couple minutes that they don't have time to talk about healthcare with their patients going, you want to go to the CVS, which one? Is it the one on Smith Street, or the one on Johnson Street, 200 Johnson Street, or 400 Johnson Street? And that's the metric whereby, and then say a patient that has, at home with 10 to 15 meds, which happens all the time, millions of times a year, the only choice they get is that whole conversation is where they get prescribed. There's no competition at that point of actual purchase where the physician makes the decision for medication prices. So fortunately, there are some new tools evolving that these guys worked on that will allow us to let people actually make a choice based on price for the different meds.
So typically, after this sort of ordeal, a doctor then hand out a file request with a list of the patient's information and medications to be purchased, and those get submitted only to their default pharmacy. So we built an API that can intercept that request, and then parse it for relevant information, search a database of medication prices, and get the locations of all those prices at different pharmacies, and then query Google API to determine that it's within a certain route adjustment of their way home from the hospital to their house, and then recommend a pharmacy to pick it up, which is both convenient and cheaper than just picking a random pharmacy or the default pharmacy. So this is an example of the kind of request that the API can intercept. This is an intermediate stage, which is reporting back the relevant information for the next stage in the process. And then this is an example of the routes to the different pharmacies that I was suggesting.
So as you can see, the Walmart that the patient may usually go to get other kinds of groceries and things is actually out of the way, and there's a CVS that is a lot cheaper for the patient's medications that they need that's actually on their way home from the doctor's office. So it maintains ease of access for the patient and allows the patient to save money. And this is our business model.
Yeah, so this is something that we could probably sell to hospitals in competitive ACO markets, where they can offer a service where they can show that you're demonstrating a take-home med price for the patients. Slide. And also there's now some companies that have been successful selling this sort of logic, this sort of algorithmic logic as a plugin to EMRs. And there's actually a very good chance we could bundle this as a very small, tightly packagable API plugin and go sell it to the EMR vendors so that they can offer this functionality out of the box without having to build it themselves.
And that's our presentation.
So that's actually part of the problem. There's no way to expose people to that. And fortunately, we have our Epic console here, and it's not only technically possible, but fairly reasonable to intercept that order before it hits the SureScripts network. And if we can intercept that order and make that exposure, and keep that order from being sent in the first place, you can then return that. We can return the bundle that information of going. If you go to your default pharmacy, Walmart, it's going to cost you like $250 out of pocket. If you stop at this CVS on the way, it's going to cost you $80 out of pocket. Which pharmacy do you want your orders into? And that logic is now like that sort of functionality can be built in fairly easily, sort of the existing EMR infrastructure. And increasingly, hospitals have patient-facing apps and the sort of infrastructure ability to go here, download our hospital app that contains the directions, all these other sort of patient-friendly things. And this would be a feature that would be pretty easily exposed. Either it's white labeled inside hospitals own patient-facing app or our
So as a patient at a doctor's office, how does any change the interaction with the doctor who's sitting there looking at the options? Are they now going to see just fewer options and it's not the Jones Street? Or is Penny just going to provide this is the cheapest and closest and the doctor has to pick it?
So in the outpatient setting, if somebody's only going home with like 1 or 2 meds and you're talking about a sort of a single physician workflow, interrupting that workflow is probably not something that will happen. But in the hospital setting, which is where the vast majority of these take home, especially our long list meds, where people come in and they get started on a bunch of new things or a bunch of things change, there's a whole big workflow process around that where a physician can fire off the order and not be bothered. And the nurse, the patient, and the family member can be exposed to that price differential, that the order can then be completed before it gets to the SureScript network. And that's what we would do is we provide that interface and that ability to say, you got this med bundle, you want to hear your bit.
And we must follow up with the patient directly with an email with information on how much money they saved, route guidance, and just a reminder of which medications are taken on.
There's multiple vendors that provide secure email access that we could call as an API to push, and we can even do that automatically. You scrape the patient's like demographic email out of their demographic information, and you leave either vulnerable locations that maybe aren't necessarily equipped to handle this, make it very easy.
Yeah, and I might have missed it. But what evidence do you have that the pharmacies are going to give you all of that data and that it's going to be applicable to the regional pharmacy, not just the CVS nationally, for example?
What we did is we actually scraped GoodRx, which provides that sort of service. They also have an API, which they didn't give us a key for that. So we kind of worked everything around that, but the information is available out there on the web. So we just hack it together and kind of find the centers where we can find the most data.
And as far as,
I'm sorry. And then the question is, CVS has a national price that you probably can find, but the individual pharmacies probably have some leverage as well in terms of how they price, and wouldn't you have to go to each of those individual pharmacies? And we didn't do that.
Yeah, so what we did do this scraping, we scraped according to zip code, and within one zip code, it's very homogeneous. But we scraped, for example, New York and Ithaca, there were some very steep differences for those two, for the same bottle of med, but they were priced very differently at the same CVS. So we do take account of geography.
Yeah.
And increasingly, there's companies like PillPack where a lot of the stuff is going to be done online, and there'll just be a straight rate to the bottom.
okay, I was just gonna say, pharmacies would want to participate, so that way they don't miss out on customers, because if they don't participate, then this system will be sent customers to them.
Clicker?
Clicker.
Go this way.
Clicker for surface.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a good trade.
How about you get your clicker?
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Narvis. I'm going to talk about a problem that is very close to my heart, or rather, should I say my nose. Hi, I'm Veer, and I have sleep apnea. So what exactly is sleep apnea? Some of you may ask. Well, sleep apnea in short is when a patient he has a problem in breathing while he's sleeping. He doesn't breathe properly when he's sleeping. That sounds pretty scary, doesn't it? Well, to be honest, it is. Around 2 years ago, while I was back in India, I woke up in the middle of the night when I just didn't breathe. I didn't know what was wrong. I thought maybe I was having one of my periodic asthma attacks. But it went on for almost 2 weeks, and still it didn't get any better. Finally, I went to a doctor and asked him, what is wrong? Even he didn't know what was wrong. I went to numerous doctors after that, and then finally, one doctor said, why don't you get a sleep study or a polysomnography done to see if you have sleep apnea? That's when I heard the first time what sleep apnea exactly is. What happens when you have sleep apnea? Some of you may ask. Well, consider this. You might be sleeping for 8 to 9 hours every night on paper, and your parents might be thinking you're sleeping fine. But in reality, your body feels that it's only slept for 2 hours. So what will happen if you sleep only for 2 hours every night for a numerous amount of days? In the morning when you wake up, you will feel really sleepy. You will feel really, really groggy. You will feel like you don't want to talk to anyone. You'll snap at any person who comes in front of you, right? Well, that's exactly how I felt. The question now is, why should you care? What is there for you? Only 0.001% of the people might be having sleep apnea, right? Wrong. 1 in 15 Americans have sleep apnea. 7% of the total population of America has sleep apnea. And that's not the scary part. Majority of them don't even know they have sleep apnea. Or worse, know what sleep apnea is. Let's get to some numbers. $3.4 billion are lost every year in America due to sleep apnea related conditions. How can you be productive when you go to work, when you feel like you only slept for 2 hours over a long period of time? How can you be productive when you're in offices or in colleges, when you slept for only 2 hours? How can you drive a car properly if you only slept for 2 hours for a large amount of time? That is a huge problem. I just spoke about the short-term problems of sleep apnea. What happens if you don't get it diagnosed and you continue having sleep apnea? It leads to a large amount of problems. It can lead to high blood pressure, it can lead to depression, it can lead to heart diseases, and it can even lead to cancer.
Thank you, Veer. I really sympathize with your colleagues. So there are 2 ways to get sleep apnea diagnosed. Either a home sleep study or a polysomnography test. As you can see, both of them are really expensive and involve the use of highly cumbersome, a huge number of devices just plugged onto your physical body. As a result of this, most people go underdiagnosed. Now, what's our solution? We use two devices. One, this Withings watch. The second is your Android smartphone with an app called Sound Meter installed on it. What do we do with these two devices? We measure a couple of metrics that we know are key to identifying symptoms of sleep apnea. These metrics, once identified over a period of 7 days, can then be presented to your physician in a dashboard. With that, we can go on to the demo. This is the physician's dashboard, as you can see that we built out right here, and the physician can see at a glance that 2 of his patients need the test. Clicking on Veer Soothe, we can see in detail what are Veer's specific statistics. Clicking on maybe average SpO2 will tell you the overall time trend of the SpO2 levels that Veer has been experiencing. This can give, going back to the dashboard, we can see once again with a color-coded, instantaneous look what is the diagnosis.
You have the Withings O2 measurement, why do you need another device?
Withings doesn't measure snoring.
It's still that sound.
Yeah.
You have a SpO2 that you're measuring. SpO2 is through Withings. Withings pulse input factor is measuring the SpO2 level. So we just started wearing right now. So we use SpO2, and then we created an app on the Android mobile where it will be basically measuring your decibel levels. And by that, you can get to your moderately snoring or mildly snoring or everything. All right, but what's the clinical data that SpO2 isn't dependent on? Is it just adequate? Would the volume of snoring be due to all kinds of things?
Sure, which is why we believe that all the 6 metrics correlated are important to identify sleep apnea symptoms. The challenge here is using those 2 different devices and time correlating the data that we're getting from those devices. And only when we see a threshold experience for all those different metrics is it the sleep apnea. Otherwise, it will just keep moving.
Yeah. And when you get the $1,000 test, what else is there measured other than snoring?
In the $1,000 test, actually, you actually asked for a heavier as well, by checking your beta waves and EEG. But when I got my test done through a watch, I was only measuring which is your snoring as well as your movement, which is ready to focus on the things itself, as well as your SpO2. According to that, there's a back watch that comes with that. According to that, it was measuring the pattern. So this is basically measuring exactly the same parameters as the back watch.
Well, we initially tried to get consumers to use it because where the devices is the trend these days. And seamlessly measure it, hopefully, instead of using an invasive method of measuring it with Apple Watch and things like that coming up. And then when we get the buy-in from physicians, that's when we will probably take it from that.
Have you thought about supplementing the data that pulls in? You're right, an Apple Watch maybe will always see that place. To provide feedback to the individuals themselves around. Earlier, you should have the meal when you had it.
Yeah, that's a further down the line, that's a vision model where once the primary care physician actually prescribes this to a particular patient, saying get a test, get this watch and see if you have sleep apnea, and you go to a polysomnograph done. Once he has sleep apnea, everything's been done. Then you're using this watch, you could be basically alerted. Maybe if you're on your back and your sleep apnea conditions will become much worse. So it could basically vibrate or tell something that move on the sides. We are looking into that and trying to make it more on the lines of gamification where it will be pretty interactive for the user as well.
So you're using your data to make a medical diagnosis. A regulatory agency is going to have you develop
It's not exactly a medical diagnosis. It's a pre-screening test where the primary care physician, if he thinks this patient has sleep apnea, we tell that patient why don't you use this device and get to know if you have sleep apnea, and then show the particular information to me and go through all the information that's there, and then I'll make a informational base.
It's clear to us that we don't want to use words like diagnosis, like you said. We want to basically identify sleep apnea-like symptoms. Diagnosis is not.
Diagnosis is the primary care physician's.
And 20 minutes
So we're Sensi. We are an app that's a clinical and dietary decision-making tool for people with food allergies and with suspected food allergies. My name is Donna Glauber, and this is coming out of my long-term immersion in dissertation research for the food allergy community, looking at patient experience and decision-making. So right now, lots of parents of food allergic kids, and there are approximately 6 million food allergic kids in the US, will see their child become sick after eating a meal. They'll take them to the ER. They might be wheezing, they might be covered in hives, they might be vomiting. And while the crisis will pass, they'll be referred to an allergist or a specialist. The allergist will have 2 options for testing. They might do a skin prick test, which involves inserting needles with potential allergens into the skin, up to 50 at a time, which can be painful. And can trigger further symptoms. Or they might do a blood test, which often come back with 10 or 20 foods that are indicated as potential allergens, and the parent will be told that their kid can eat any of these foods or else they might die. So this is a stressful process. Why is it so bad? So the problem is that skin and blood tests have up to a 70% test failure rate. And for this reason, patient history is critical in making a food allergy diagnosis. However, it's hard to get accurate and long-term patient history information. It's hard to remember what you eat and what your symptoms are and make those connections to tell to your doctor. And there are approximately 6 million kids with food allergies, so that's millions of parents who are struggling through this process, want to know more about what's going on with their kids' health. So our solution is a tool that improves decision making. It will improve both clinical decision making about how to use diagnostic tools and also improve dietary decision making for families in real time as they're noticing patterns and maybe preliminarily cutting out foods in advance of final test results. And so ultimately this is going to reduce patient anxiety and confusion and also reduce the children's discomfort going through the testing process. So the product is an easy-to-use diet and symptom monitoring tool. As I said, it's a smartphone. So it'll work by the parent inputting what the child eats. So that could be ingredients, that could be whole foods, or we'll also be able to search databases of food ingredients based on barcodes. And we'll also input the symptoms on a daily basis. We'll have an algorithm that will generate patterns linking symptoms to food and also spit out probabilities predicting which foods are most likely culprits, which will help the doctor decide what to test for and minimize the invasiveness and extent of testing. And there will also be an option for users, parent users, to aggregate and analyze the data on demand to find patterns of demand. So there are 6 competitors, different kinds of diet tracking tools. But none will have our algorithm with data that's optimized to drive decision making, and then we'll have the ingredient specificity. It's often minor ingredients, additives, thickeners, flavorings that are triggering food allergies, so those are very hard to find and don't come up in other diet tracking tools. And as I said, none provide this kind of actionable data. So there's a huge demand for simplification of this process, speeding up this process efficiency by parents. And so that's what this is responding to. This is something I've noticed in my extensive multi-year research. We'll have monthly and yearly subscription options. We will be collecting a huge amount of patient data that will be available to drive clinical research. This patient data might also be available to improve food manufacturing processes that makes food safer for people with food allergies. Ultimately, the impact is improving patient health and decreasing patient stress. And also will be helping to move forward research into diet management and cures for food allergy. Path to market will be primarily targeting parents and partnering with food allergy organizations to get there.
Model, it's a lifetime. But this is more for determining what foods. We would basically do this forever, or we will see it one time in life.
Right. So there's a few things. So there can also be a lag between when you notice symptoms and when you get diagnosed. So this will help patients start to find those patterns and hopefully possibly start cutting some things out, and then also start clinical decision making with their doctor. Longer term, some people might just use it for a couple of months to figure things out, and they might have a diet and a lifestyle that allows them to easily avoid those foods. That's absolutely true. But a lot of parents find it really difficult to keep food out. Kids will start having symptoms. They don't know which food is causing it. There might be a change in the ingredient list, a change in the processing procedure. They can start triggering allergies to foods that were previously safe. Can you guys turn that sound off? Excuse me, can you turn that sound off?
It's not.
So as you said, a lot of the allergies may be coming from food additives, and the food additives, any given food may differ from brain to brain.
Right.
So are you capturing that in your database as well?
Right, so there are very detailed databases where you can like scan a barcode or input information about the name of the food, the brand, and it has all of that detailed information, major ingredients, minor ingredients. I think one of them also has like maintained statements of things that might come in contact with artificial ingredients. And so that's the level of detail that people with food allergies need to find these patterns, and that's the level of detail that other apps lack. Yes.
So it sounds like the primary focus and the primary pain point is parents diagnosing their children's potential allergies or potential allergies. Is there a worry, or have you thought about how to solve for the points in which parents aren't directly providing food for their children, and those meals might not get logged into the app?
Right, so that's something we talked about a lot. Ultimately, parents of kids with food allergies don't trust anyone else to feed their kids. There are huge online communities, in-person communities. First thing you learn as soon as you go and you seek information, don't let anyone else feed your kids. So these parents have a lot of control over their kids' diets and know exactly what they're eating. If they do eat something at a daycare or school that someone else gives them, that is the last time it's happening, because that person that gave it to them is never going to get shared again. So they would be able to, go to that person to get that data and put it into their log, but those instances are really limited. Yeah. Yes, it would be the parents. And we've talked to some parents over the course of the weekend, and I've talked with some of my research. People are using all kinds of difficult systems to do that, which just aggregates raw data. So handwritten food journals, Excel spreadsheets, Google Docs, something that can pull out the patterns and tell you what to do and tell you what to take to the doctor is a big innovation. And I think these parents are very motivated to pay a small amount to do that. Because what's at stake is your child's going to die. That's what they're told over and over again.
You have 6 competitors, and you describe your positioning as having a better algorithm. I'm in 2nd grade. Tell me what's about your algorithm that so many competitors have 6 competitors? What are the elements that take you?
Right. So we did not have a programmer on our team, so we don't have a prototype of that algorithm yet. But based on, so I have experience with this community. We have a doctor on the team, so we know the things that people are tracking, the things that doctors want to know, and so we're tailoring the algorithm around that. So filtering out a virus, right? So you can get rashes and symptoms that look like allergies to the virus, especially in kids, just from a cold virus. Filtering out things like food poisoning. The algorithm will take all of that into account so that the results are really clinically relevant for allergies. So we're answers on call, important answers, important questions, and expert answers on call. Medical care is becoming more and more personalized, and as diseases and treatments become more complex, patients have more questions and doctors have less time to answer it.
blah, 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 blah. Yeah, blah, blah, Okay, so what is it? Take some time, think about all the options you have, and we'll set you an appointment for 46. Alright.
Normally, this is where the encounter ends, leaving the patient stunned, shocked, and trying to glean the information from the fragments of technical jargon they are learned from their doctor. Patients are left with many unaddressed questions, concerns, and fears about the conditions and treatments. There is a need to find a solution, and that's where Answers on Call enters, a personalized one-on-one interaction with an expert. Here's how it works. So you would navigate to the patient portal, click on our Answers on Call button. You will be able to choose from your recent encounter with your doctor, what the diagnosis was, and what the information you would like to discuss. I know it's a little hard to see the diagnosis, treatment, and then just general questions. The system would match you to an on-call expert in our system that day, such as an MD or a physician's assistant. So once you confirm the application, a short time before your appointment, you would get a text message or an email with a URL, so that would link you to a video chat with your expert.
Hello, my name is Dr. Harris. I'm a retired oncologist who has specialized in lung cancer for over 30 years. After looking through your diagnosis and medical records, I am ready for any questions you might ask me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Harris, for answering my questions.
You're welcome.
Each Answers on Call consultant would take notes and record what topics and send a transcript highlighting the areas of continued concern and what topics were covered back to the primary care physician. With improved patient care, they would be more satisfied and likely to recommend the hospital to other people, and also they have a greater sense of ownership in their medical diagnosis. The primary care physician would reduce the time spent responding to numerous inquiries, and the hospital would benefit by having better physician efficacy, bolstered reputation, and higher patient satisfaction.
So for a business case, every day in the US, there are 4,500 cases per day. And by 2025, we expect an increase of 42% in new cancer cases, while only 28% of new oncologists to meet those needs, making a huge deficit between these two markets. And putting a huge strain on these already limited times for these physicians. So the value we're proposing right now is bringing the hospital increased revenue, because these doctors are going to have more time using our service to see more patients, meaning more patients gain an understanding of their diagnosis while having a sense of ownership over the next steps forward in their care. Doctors get to focus more on the patient, and as in a recent survey through the Clinical Oncology Association, we know that oncologists, more than 50% of oncologists, want to spend more time with these patients, and they get a huge part of their job satisfaction from this. So our revenue potential is $5 million for hospitals.
Yeah, so building the network of the experts would be like, I guess, the biggest chunk that I would try and do. So compiling a list of people, like either, like we said, like a retired oncologist or someone who has a sick family member and wants to work from home and still be involved in kind of like patient care or something like that. Getting those people who are knowledgeable experts on like oncology and all the different kinds of things like that. And not just a specific one that we targeted, it can be whatever specialty, like specialized specialty. But so developing that network that you can kind of like plug into a variety of hospital systems, because we kind of see it as sort of like a nationwide network that hospitals would pay to have access to the network. So you would be plugged into their hospital portal, but we would sort of own the network of experts.
And who validates the expertise of these people? is that something you do, or the hospitals do it, or you hire boards of scientists to make sure? You know, I'm a little skeptical when they say retired guys, how long has he been retired?
Yeah, so obviously there would be no vetting process. You have to make sure, they all have to be licensed professionals that, I'm not sure.
We would have to do our own vetting, standard vetting for positions, make sure that they get the license, they get the course. We would hopefully, we shoot for people that still have all these positions out.
Yeah, the exemption state is someone who potentially is still practicing, but just not able to practice full-time, or it has some kind of thing where they want to travel, so they want to have like the freedom to only work a couple days a week, or work from where they want to work from, because they'd be able to video conferences.
So you just kind of help me understand how you thought about how money comes. So someone calls the retired doctor, then you build the doctor, you build a hospital, or then you.
Yeah, so the hospital would be paying sort of like our service. How we initially thought of it, and it's not, this is just how we're thinking of it right now, is that the hospital would pay like an initial licensing fee, and we would give them access to our network, and the hospital would pay like a maintenance agreement, like annually or maybe monthly or something like that. So they would just pay us for our service, and we would pay the doctors hourly for what they're doing separately. So that it wouldn't be a direct line. So the hospital would be paying us, and we would be paying the doctors, but it's not like the hospital paying the doctors, which kind of provides some attention to people.
I know for sure. You have a chance to talk to the retired doctor. I'm just curious.
So we really, we have a professor that we work with at Cornell that is a retired orthopedic surgeon, and he actually does part-time work where he goes around and analyzes people who have had work-related injuries and like kind of analyzes whether or not their injuries are still that kind of stuff. So he's definitely doing part-time work.
Is there a market for, I'm a physician myself, and I actually look for work outside of kind of the clinical sphere, home and things like that. And actually, local tenants companies are looking for people that want to do home medicine, work from home, want to work from home, work part-time, get a few extra dollars on the side.
A national network, are there any, to your knowledge, licensing issues? In other words, someone retired physician in Arizona, they provide this sort of medical advice.
The way we could get around this is it's not an actual doctor-patient relationship. They're not going to be diagnosed and treated. It's going to be an education and counseling. So we wouldn't be required to have necessarily that level of.
They do have to have access to their EMR though, so that is something that we were, by plugging into the healthcare system and having them access it through the portal, I'm not sure I have definitely.
In use perspective, would be
Okay, up next we're gonna have Team Sonic Boom. If Team Paddington is here, please get in line. Thank you.
Good morning. We're here to introduce you to CALM, a Community Alert Management System. I'm sure everyone recognises the sound, and if you're like me, you would respond by calling the police. Most of us know that the alarm is highly likely to be a false alarm, and our best response is to just ignore it. And that's called alarm fatigue. And can you imagine what this might do if it occurred in a hospital environment? This is the sort of noise that patients, nurses, and doctors have to face every day in the hospital environment, and it does have an impact. 3 years ago, someone should advance the next slide, please. You walking past the laptop, you just click it forward. 3 years ago, a lady by the name of Leilani Schweitzer began her 18-month contract to the hospital in Nevada, where he was sent straight to the ward and attached to a cardiac monitor. Now, every time Gabriel went to fall asleep, he would twitch and trigger the cardiac alarm, which would obviously make a noise and wake him up, and he'd have to go through the whole cycle again. After 24 hours of this, Gabriel and his mother Leilani were exhausted, and the nurse decided to turn the alarm off so that he'd get some rest. When Leilani woke up, a couple of hours later, the room was filled with frantic nurses and doctors working around Gabriel trying to resuscitate him. His heart had stopped while she was asleep. because the alarm had been turned off. No one responded and gave them a guide. In the same year, there were 566 deaths at least across hospitals in the United States related to monitoring device alarms. And good research has shown that 99% of all alarms in the hospital environment are either nuisance alarms or false alarms, which means that only 1% actually lead to a change in patient care. We will be addressing that we will be reducing the 99% of false alarms and making the 1% more meaningful.
So right now there are at least 12 devices monitoring a patient at a time, and they don't talk to each other. So we are going to integrate the inputs from the devices and inputs from medical staff and create a sort of smart way to convey that message in a meaningful way by prioritizing alarms in respect to urgency and updating the electronic health records. So to reduce nuisance alarms, we're transmitting them in a non-audible way, which will greatly help the situation. And it'll go to the nurse's smartphone. To reduce the number of false alarms, we will coordinate the inputs from the various monitors and transmit them in an audible way with a clinically relevant sound. For example, if an EKG dot fell off a patient, but the other devices said there was still a pulse, then we would know there's a mistake in the device and not the patient, so it's less urgent. Situations that require maximum urgency would be a verbal communication to the nurse, because research has shown that verbal messages convey a better sense of urgency than sounds. So if our system had been implemented in the hospital that Gabriel was at, he would have been able to get some sleep and he would have lived.
Other companies are not reducing the volume of alarms, they're simply relocating it. What we're doing is we're adding a sonic intelligence level to create and standardize meaningful sounds so that they can be utilized and recognized nationally or even globally. So an intelligent sonic alert management system will improve quality of patient care, improve the efficiency of hospitals, have cost savings up to millions of dollars, and most importantly, it will save patient lives. 19 out of 20 hospitals.
So obviously going to a hospital and saying, installing a test device or implementing a test device hospital-wide is going to be difficult. What's your strategy for testing and then implementing the concept?
So we're aware of 2 hospitals already that have looked at addressing this specifically. One of them is General Hospital, and the other one's we've been approached by Sloan Kettering to get involved on their side, so we have one at least potentially 2 testing sites. So we are to implement a board level eventually, sort of conversing feedback on how effective the work is on the board, and hopefully modify accordingly throughout other departments within the hospital and then other sites. It'll be a sort of iterative process along the way.
Nurses are running around 99% of the time.
You guys have
not
one?
looking at their cell
We don't have a
phones.
Mac though.
From the message,
You wanna use it already?
they end up just having to put alarms on their phones in order to bring their attention to the issues.
Yes and no. So the alarms will go on the smartphones, but the advantage of this system is that it's an intelligent system in 2 respects. So one is that the actual alarms that are transmitted to the nursing staff and interpreted and prioritised, and the priorities that they're given affect what sort of alarm the nurse actually receives. So of the 99% of alarms that are not critical to patient care, majority are nuisance alarms that don't need to be acted upon urgently. Okay? And often, although the nurses are too busy to be looking at the smartphones, you'll find that they're often on a piece of paper with scribbling all over it and a list of things to do. The one thing that we'll be doing is sending a lot of those alerts that don't need to be audible to the nurse. We'll go to the vibration so that she can feel she's got an addition to her workflow, and it will be added immediately to her workflow pattern, which is also repeated in the central nurses station for others to see if she's becoming too overloaded.
Apple Watch coming out that will be using little sensors to push or scratch you with messages that's supposed to raise up from the security device on your phone constantly. That
Exactly, and ideally we use that in combination with sound as well. Obviously reducing the sound means that the sounds that are left behind in the environment can be more meaningful. And there's good research to show that the response time is fastest to the sound, so it's the urgent events. We rely on just the tactile sense is slow. So it would be good to use that in combination with the sound. So we have thought about that, and there are pros and cons to both. The advantage of using a smartphone is that she carries it on her in a small home. We thought about sort of implementing iPads for each nurse or for each sort of work area within the ward, and that has advantages, but one of the disadvantages is that it's larger and more bulky. We all know the nurses are flat chat and they're very busy. They're not going to be carrying around unnecessary equipment that don't easily fit onto their person. So that's one disadvantage. Secondly, it's an added cost to the hospital because the nurse provides a smartphone and we pay $1 for an app or less, and that's not cheap.
If you may be moderating that team, you're going to be up next. If you could please come into the queue. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. We're Team Fitwork, and just going to start off by saying what we feel are the problems in the mobile and web app space in the industry. So we feel like there's so many people studying abroad and living away from their families. There's no way to keep a track of their health and their fitness activities. And we feel like there is no single app that integrates that particular factor and helps you find a company to do the activities that you want to do in a particular area, and also allows you to follow your role model's fitness routine. That's what we propose with Fitwork. What is it exactly? It's a fitness network. We hope to develop a network of fitness-minded people, health-minded people, where you can post activities based on location-based system and find people who are interested in the same activity, who can either join you or you can join them. We propose to have a group functionality where famous and well-reputed sports personalities can have their fan group, people with like-minded, people who like to do the same type of activities can form groups and post group goals. And we hope that when famous personalities post group goals, that it will help motivate the community and help people try to achieve those group goals. So let's move on to how we propose to profit from this app. We try to sell the data, of course. What data do we collect? We try and collect the sleep pattern of people. We try and collect information about the people they follow, try and understand what kind of activities they like, their activity history, and calories expended based on their activity history. We sort of identify three major revenue streams. Fitness, we plan to sell our data to fitness centers so they can develop customized training programs based on people who are interested in particular activities in a particular area. We plan to sell our data to insurance companies who might be interested in developing special insurance rates based on profiles of people that they create based on our data. Talking about the market size, as you can clearly see from the first graph, there is an increasing trend in the number of smartphone users in the US. Based on this information and the extrapolated information up to 2018, we believe in 2015, 2016 and onwards we have a US market size of at least 80 million users for our app. Like I mentioned before, we propose to partner with insurance companies enterprises, fitness and healthcare centers. We also think it's a nice opportunity for aspiring fitness experts to help develop fan following and then maybe start their own fitness centers and clubs. We also think local governments might be interested in this information because if they find that, for example, people in the local area are interested in jogging, they could invest money in developing, in making jogging tracks, stuff like that. So that's all about our app, and just to summarize, we will leave the service waiting if anyone wants to have it.
So there are other apps like this.
Actually, no, this is I'm sorry.
Sounds similar though.
So there are a host of other applications that already exist. I think there's one called Pump Up, there's another one called Fantastic. There are a lot of ones that are specific to particular sports. Like Fantastic is specific to jogging. It tracks the time you start, the time you end, the route that you follow, the number of calories you expended, the speed that you've been jogging at, stuff like that. But there's nothing that integrates all of the different apps into one, all of the different sports into one single app. What we're trying to do is develop a community that where people who are simply fitness minded or health minded who like to do different activities can find like-minded people. If that answers the question.
Yes, the thing is, people find it hard to just use the exercise at their home. Just from my home experience, I use to access with my family. When I go to school, I play with my friend. If I want to reach a high level, I need some expertise. I'm probably close to learning to do it. Just like the Coursera, many people reached the course, but they didn't complete it because they didn't have the social networking, they don't have the community to communicate, to interact with. So we feel through this, with building all the surrounding family and the expertise that everybody together, we help people to find the friend, find the community, to play with them, to really have fun and have the people share the same interest. So that's kind of like motivate people to really do exercise, not just using the name or just working alone at home.
So it's a very broad application, and you have competitors like Cycling, for example, where you can jog or ride your bike using Google Maps and you're outside. There are apps for bicycles where you can have a group of cyclists riding together virtually because they have the same monitors on them. So what sport do you start with? Because some of these areas are pretty well covered. Cycling and jogging are already covered with existing apps. How do you break in? What's your lead sport, for example?
I think what the main point of our app is not to be too specific in one particular sport. What we're proposing tries to be as broad as possible and not as deep as the existing apps for each of these sports. So that should be that's what we think our USP is. Any other questions? Thank you.
Good morning. So we're proposing Davy, a novel and health approach to revolutionizing the birthing experience. So birth is normally a natural and beautiful thing. However, when things go badly, this can happen very quickly. So when in the labor and delivery room, healthcare providers are inundated with a lot of data about the baby, about the mother, as well as progress of labor. As it stands, the data is not 100% accurate. The current technology is bulky, leads to subjective decision-making and costly interventions to the healthcare system. Experts like obstetricians need help. The current standard of care to monitor labor depends too heavily on pattern recognition of both the fetus as well as labor progress. So therefore, we are proposing building an innovative, non-invasive approach that brings together important data that drives decision-making and aggregates the patterns and outcomes into a risk score for both mom and baby. The product utilizes mobile and sensor technology to A, improve the accuracy of fetal monitoring, and B, aggregate important data of labor progress. So mother's vital signs, progress of the cervix, and contractions. So the technical aspects of our innovation is threefold. The first aspect is to develop the electrical sensors for the mom, the baby, and contraction monitoring. And then the second is to develop a computational model that brings together all of the available evidence to more accurately develop a risk score. And then the third step would be the integration of the sensor and the models into a mobile application that will be fed in through real time to develop an objective, evidence-based risk score. As it stands, there's nothing in the market that is currently working to aggregate and improve the accuracy of data around one of the most important healthcare needs in the world. There are products that have developed separate pieces to improve one aspect of the decision making, but nothing has actually been done to aggregate and improve accuracy. Our product has potential to scale, as the goal is to produce a low-cost product that can be integrated into existing health systems. In addition, it addresses the issues of inequity, where we are building a more accurate, objective, low-cost product that will help to decrease overtreatment in high middle-income countries and also improve the quality of care and access to point-of-care diagnostics in places where there's no monitoring occurring at all. The market for this technology is massive and it's growing. Global fetal monitoring is a $1.68 billion industry. It's predicted to reach 2.3 million in 2019, with 700 million of that coming from the US alone. We plan to initially focus on a business-to-business model to build credibility. There are approximately 3,600 OBGYNs and hospitals and birthing centers in the US. If we assume that each of them buys just one device, which is of course an underestimate, at the price of the current equivalent of our technology, that's a revenue of $1.8 million already. Not only that, this product also has the potential to be sold directly to pregnant women for point-of-care monitoring in the comfort of their home, particularly high-risk ones for whom information is much more important. And there are approximately 275,000 high-risk pregnancies in the US annually. So again, imagine the potential of this technology. It's cost-effective, it will be more accurate, and revolutionary. And moreover, it will be something that can be used not only in high-resource settings, but something that we hope that will also be used in low-resource settings. So we envision a world where mothers and babies globally are provided high-quality and empowered care. This touches each and every one of us in profound ways. So our team of computational scientists, physicians, epidemiologists, and programmers encourage you to invest in baby, which, and also just another side note, is currently patent pending. So it'll be two parts. It'll be fetal ECG sensors and also as well as contraction EMG sensors that would be on mom's belly. That would be wireless or Bluetooth enabled, or it could be the audio jack of the cellular phone could be utilized. And then the app component is essentially a program that has information related to how the cervix is doing through labor, how the baby is doing with regards to its position in the pelvis, as well as how the contractions are going. So the whole thing is to synergize the two technologies so that you would have real-time monitoring rather than what we have right now, which is all ultrasound transducer. So you get direct feedback of what's happening with the baby's heart being put into the app that also has all the information about labor, and then you develop a risk score and all of that together with regards to how the clinical picture looks like.
So the expectation is that you partner with hospitals and doctors, and then the expecting mother is recommended by your OBGYN to wear baby constantly?
No.
What's the expectation?
So right now, we envision this to be a product that's in hospital, so it's like it's taking, because what exists right now is not, the standard of care is not good enough. So we're proposing something to revolutionize the way that we're doing it and have something that's more accurate and aggregating all the data that we have. So it's for hospital-based decision making. But then when we're brainstorming, we could have a light version that could be for the consumer in the comfort of their home. So when we started off, we'd like it just to be something that's hospital to hospital, so that they're basically taking what we currently exist and we can use this instead in the hospital to make better decisions.
Yeah, my question relates to 275,000 high-risk patients. Are those hospital in-hospital patients, or is that a group of, for example, both of my daughters who are high-risk pregnancy, my wife is on bed rest? She wasn't in the hospital.
Right.
Is that what you're talking about?
So 207.
So the 275,000, we get the number from the total number of pregnancies multiplied by the percentage of high-risk pregnancies. Approximately 6 to 8% of all pregnancies are high risk. Depending on the age, it can depend on health conditions previously or health
Those
conditions.
are not necessarily because they're in the hospital.
Yes.
Your main product. They might be
Yes.
like.
Yeah, so initially the business model is targeted to be a B2B, as mentioned earlier, to hospitals and printing centers. But we also see the potential in expanding it even further and going B2C, but that's in later stages.
You're considering this a diagnostic, you would need clinical trials. And did I understand you correctly, you also have some ideas for new devices or improvement of the existing product? Is that correct?
Is the market strategy using sensors that already exist, or you mentioned developing the sensor technology?
So we were talking about that amongst the group. What I think we're gonna do is develop the hardware ourselves and develop the sensors ourselves. There is companies that are doing it separately. So they have field ECGs, like there's Sense for Baby and AN24, and these ones that have FDA regulations on. But even those, because we're trying to do it with this computational modeling that's also being connected to an app, we're going to probably need to brainstorm a little bit and develop our own sensor technology.
And one of those other existing consumer platforms would be that they are using some proprietary data formats, or it's locked to, they would be selling them at the same time. So we would potentially try to communicate with them and discover, would you be willing to open this up? Likely not, in which case we would investigate making our own devices.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, we'll break for the lunch now. We have in half an hour and make sure you use this opportunity for networking and ask us burning questions to the people who have already presented.
Also, we emailed a survey that we want everyone to complete, so thank you.
So we put our email to the survey, everybody was, so please fill that out. Thank you.
Yes, let's take a photo. I just make we're so excited. Didn't make sense. Like, so I was realizing when I got the slide, I was like, we should have a picture of us on here. They remember. Oh.